So we are here today interviewing Victoria Webb about her past 4 generations of her family being Baltimore, and it first started with who?
My grandmother's grandmother.
Okay. And do you know much information about your grandmother's grandmother?
Nothing besides the fact that she moved here in like the early 1900s, maybe even the late 1800s.
Okay. Well, that sounds pretty interesting. And of course, you had children because you were here. And what year was your grandmother born?
1928.
Oh, well, that's kind of a few years before the Great Depression started. And far as that went, of course, being African American woman in society at that time, it was probably hard for her to have a job, take care of her children, and be able to raise them. Do you remember anything at all about your grandmother telling you about any struggles growing up?
Well, she worked in a factory called London Fog. I think it was. It's a coal factory, and she had 5 children that she had to raise. So, and she raised them on her own. So I'm pretty sure that there were hardships with raising all of them by herself.
So was she ever married if she raised them on her own, or just at the time?
She was married before she had her children.
Oh wow! During that time, that must have been hard for her, especially being a woman and raising. You said 5 children. 5 children on her own. Do you know how much she made at that factory?
Around like $6.90,
Oh.
maybe. Probably not even. Yeah, probably less than that because she was a woman and because she was black.
That must have been hard for her. And do you know that? Well, one of my questions: where did she face any racial discrimination? And of course, you just said it. Being a black woman working in a factory, she probably made less than the minimum wage you just spoke about. And what do you think, or has she ever told you what Baltimore looked like at the time when she was growing up?
She never told me, but it was mostly industrial because there were a lot of factories around, and Baltimore, has the port, so it's known for like getting shipments in and things like that. So they always had people working to bring in the shipments and make things and things like
Okay. And far as being part of any social organization, was she part of a union, a church, any type of organization that was based on the community she lived in?
She went to church as a young child, but as she got older, she didn't go much. She sent her children though.
Was that a thing? Do you also go to church, or did your mom go to church still?
My mother still goes to church, and she made me go every Sunday with her when I was younger. And I go now still too. Not
That's good.
every Sunday, but I go still.
Okay, that's good. And would you believe that for your grandmother, your mother, and you, that faith is a really big part of your life?
Faith?
Yeah. Well, your church life. Faith, like you believe.
Oh, faith.
Yeah.
Yes. We are Baptist, and I think that as Christians, that religion plays a strong role in the lifestyle that you're supposed to live.
Okay, that's good. I believe that too. And far as your grandmother working for the coat factory and things like that, and she being a single parent, how was she able to take care of all her children by, let's say during the summer when there's no school? What happened then?
Actually, she had a nanny. Well, they call her Bubble, and she was my grandmother's cousin. During the summertime, my grandmother sent my mother and my aunts and uncle to Virginia to her aunt's house in Virginia, and she had a farm. And yeah, she had a farm.
So you just said it was your aunt, your mom, and your uncle, but you had 5 children. What happened with the rest, or why couldn't they all go?
My grandmother couldn't afford to send all of them every summer. So some of them would stay and some of them would go. But every summer somebody would go, and they would rotate every summer. So some would go one summer, some would go the next summer.
So your aunt had a farm. Where was her farm?
I don't think it had a name. It wasn't like a farm where she got paid to give stuff to other people. It was like her personal farm. So my mother told me stories like they used to go out and get like the eggs from the chickens and things like that.
She raised her own crops, and
Yes.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And she was an African American woman. Did she work for someone? Or was this just personally her farm?
This was her personal farm.
That's amazing. Okay. And so I would guess from your aunt's perspective, that is a sense of upward mobility where you come from someone as your grandmother's grandmother who was during the time was facing the Great Depression, but your aunt has her own farm, her own home, her own crops, her own field. That's pretty amazing. That's a sense of vulnerability. Far as you know, the the what would you say, the industrial sense that you guys to your grandmother had a bunch of factories during your mother's generation. Would you say there was also a lot of factories? Did you ever mention that?
I think that there are still a lot of factories around. My mother tells me stories like, I used to go to this camp and we used to walk past the old Coca-Cola factory, and there's still the Cloverland factory where I used to live and things like that. So it's still some factories, but my mother always tells me that the city wasn't as up and running as it is now with the technology and just how everything works and things like that.
Okay. And so, did your mother raise you on her own, or did you have a husband? What was that situation like?
My mother?
Yeah.
She raised 3 children by herself.
Oh, wow. And what did your mother do?
Oh, my mother is a paraprofessional. She works with children with learning disabilities.
Okay. And do you believe that far as your mother working with children with learning disability, that's a job that took a degree, and what happened there? Like, how did she get that job?
Well, during the time that she graduated from high school and went to college, she went to straight business college. And during that time, they didn't have a degree program, so the longest program they had was 1.5 years. So she went for 18 months and got a diploma, like a certificate, and that was, the highest level that she could get. So that's what she did. And she went besides that, her first job was like at a gas station. So she started off working, you know how teens get younger jobs and they build their way up. I've always remember growing up her working in a school system somewhere. So she started in the school system and things like that, and she got this job.
Oh, wow. I feel like from talking with your grandmother, your aunt, your mom, that everyone found their way and they made their way up. And they found a way to support their family continuously, even on their own, which is amazing. And do you believe that, or have you ever been told about any racism that your grandmother, your grandmother's grandmother, or your mom has faced, or including yourself has faced?
I'm pretty sure my grandmother did face racism because of the time period that she lived, but I'm not too sure of an exact story. And as far as my mom, she's told me that one of the jobs that she had, she worked as a waitress in like a cafe diner type thing. And at that time, I was a famous, I don't know if she was an actress or something, who came in to the restaurant. And, people treat you differently when they think that you're beneath them. So, Mom, as a waitress, it's your job to, greet the people, make sure they're comfortable. She just kind of like shrugged off and gave her a coat, things like that.
Didn't show respect.
No. And as far as myself, I grew up in a city, but I attend a predominantly white institution. So I do face racism here, even though it's supposed to be not tolerated, things like that. It still happens. So.
See, that's it's very true, and it's sad that it does still happen. And for your family personally, what is your political, your political stand? What do you see yourself as?
A Democrat.
Do you have a reason, or is it because what is your belief behind that? Like, what is your reasoning behind being a Democrat?
I think that Democratic beliefs are more aware of what people like me who live in a city who don't have as much, who can't afford as much, go through. And they base some of their opinions and what they want to be noticed. They base it off of what they know we go through, or what they might see that we go through. So I think that they have a better understanding of what might be best for us, instead of just looking at people who do have money or people who can afford this or that.
And I was also I remember we learned about W.E. Du Bois in our class, and that he saw equality as a distribution to redistribute the lands of the blacks and the poor and the white. And you were telling me about your grandmother having her own land and that she was able to actually do this to get a piece of land, to get a piece of something that was not probably originally hers. She earned her way to that. And with this happening and you saying, you know, that that being a Democrat, that you believe that people see different views of life, not just making the rich rich and the poor poor, stay at that level. Do you believe that any time during that, do you believe her having that piece of land, owning that, was anyway due to probably someone in the political life back then that probably helped her get that advantage, or you think this is all she made her way on her own by doing this? Do you know at all about that with your aunt?
That's a good question. I'm sorry. I think that I honestly don't know. All I've known is the fact that she had a farm, and I think it actually might have came from her husband.
Oh, really?
Because she had a husband, and they worked together on the farm. But he passed before she did. So I'm not too sure about that. But I do want to point the fact that I think it's funny how, you know, slavery was abolished in the North first, but a lot of blacks still live in a lot of black states. There's a lot of blacks still in the South, and they still have a lot of things that people up north don't have, like farms and things like that. So I don't know how she got the farm. It might have been passed down from the family, but I'm not too sure.
Okay. Thank you. And with you personally, growing up, I know that schools back then, probably with your grandmother, were they segregated? Do you know? Mostly? Okay, most likely. Okay, and what about your mother? Were they segregated? No. And did she have any experience facing any type of racial discrimination that she told you about growing up as a child? Probably in school. Was her education level different compared to those of a, you know, I guess the white race, or compared to those of black or Polish or Hispanic, anything like that? Were she was
racism in her school, I don't think that she faced racism in her school because back then
what year was this, do you mind me asking, that she was born and went to school? Do you know what year?
She was born in the 60s.
In the 60s? Okay.
Yeah, so she went to school in like the 70s, and around like, you know, 82, things like that. She was around like 20. I think that she probably didn't face, I mean, of course it's racism, but I don't think it was a big as
prominent thing. Yeah.
And when she was in school. But back then, Baltimore was split into like white collar, blue collar, white collar neighborhoods, and of course the white collar was the more higher paying jobs. So what was your question again?
Did your mother face any racial discrimination while in school?
No. Not in school. I brought that point up for a reason, but I forgot.
It's okay. Well, what about you? Do you feel like, where did you grow up mainly? You know, West Baltimore, East Baltimore?
East Baltimore.
East Baltimore? Okay, what part? In like, what was your area?
If I tell you the neighborhood, you're not going to know. But I grew up down the street from Towson.
Okay.
But, so York Road area. And then I moved to Greenmount, which is also not a good neighborhood. And now I live in the Moravia area.
Okay. And which one of those areas do you prefer the most? And if you don't mind me asking, why did you move so much?
Compared to a lot of other people, that's not a lot.
Okay.
But I prefer, I guess I prefer York Road because I lived there. Okay, so it's like I spent literally half of my life York Road, half Greenmount, and just moved to Moravia. So it's kind of like half and half.
Yeah.
I prefer York Road because I grew up there, basically, through elementary school. The people that I know are around there. My church is around there, things like that. The Greenmount area is a little worse than the York Road area. And the Moravia area is, of course, the better area out of the three.
Why do you think it's better?
Well, not all the way better, because some of the same things still happen, but it's more like homeowners and people who take care of the neighborhood. And they don't allow certain things on the block.
What races are in that area?
Black.
Black. Okay, it's okay. That's good.
It's some white people.
Not a lot.
No.
Okay. And do you talk to any of them, or do any of them talk to you? Is this a community, or just a place where you think people live and go about their business?
It's actually a community. They just had a block party the other day. I went home, and they try to help to keep the children out of trouble, because a lot of things happen in that neighborhood. It's the way the city is set up is really funny, because on one street you could have the worst neighborhood, and in the next block it could be a pretty quiet neighborhood.
Yeah.
So our block is actually pretty quiet. Well, it's a lot of children, so I guess not quiet, but a lot of like gangs and things like that are not really on that block. But if you go around the corner, it's a different story.
Yeah, it's different. Okay. And with growing up and going to school, you said that your mom didn't face any type of racism, and you're not too sure about your grandmother. But did you face